Hi, ladies. My name is Sue Donaldson, and I'm thankful to talk to you a little bit today. I wish it were in person, but it's not. My favorite thing to do in the world is to talk and eat and shop. I've been shopping online these days. I've been eating way too much, and I'm very grateful that two of my three daughters are home with us during this shelter at home because there are people to talk to, even though it can be a little annoying at times. We have three daughters. The oldest is 31, Bonnie. I got married late at 35 and had her then in 10 months. My mother was counting the months on her fingers, on her hand. And then Bethany is 28, and then Mary Grace, the rent, a surprise treat, I like to call her, came when I was almost 44. So she's 24 and I'm almost 68. Anyway, so Mary Grace is at USC grad school, and she had to come and working there at USC, but is working from home and taking classes online at home. And Bonnie works for Zillow Trulia in San Francisco, and she's been home for over a month because she hasn't been allowed to go into work in San Francisco. So it's, for the most part, really great. They are taking care of me kind of like I used to take care of them. They actually yell at me when I go out the front door. And they go, "Where are you going, Mom?" And I'll say, "Well, I'm just going to get some rosemary out of the garden to put in the stew." And then they go back to whatever they're doing. And I know they're yelling at me out of love. And so I reminded them, I used to yell at you a lot more, and it was out of love, not out of a temper. But when kids are little, they don't quite get that. But I think it made them feel like, oh, yeah. A time when I did not keep my eyes on Bonnie. She was 17 months old. She's the oldest. And we just moved into this house, and people who had helped us move brought their kids over later to see the new house. It was the Soderholms. And they had wandered through, and we showed them the side yard and everything. And then they left, and I was making dinner. And the cool thing about this house, I was so excited that it had a side yard, and I could watch Bonnie play while I was making dinner. And I glanced over, and I didn't see her by the swing set, but I didn't think much about it. And then I didn't see her again. And then I realized, wow, I haven't seen her for a while. And so I go out the side door, and the gate is open. If you can imagine the terror I felt, it almost makes me sick to think about it. And so I ran through the gate, and I went up Mariposa Drive, and it's like my legs were made of lead or rubber, and I couldn't run very fast or fast enough. And I realized as I was tearing down the street that if I can't see her at the end of the street, that she's not that direction. So I turned around, and I was huffing and puffing and running back, and I was just passing my house the other direction when this woman, who was a stranger, of course, because we had moved in that day or the day before, and she was holding Bonnie Sue in her arms, and her van was stopped in the middle of the road. And she said, "Does she belong to you?" And of course I said yes, and was horribly embarrassed, but mostly eternally grateful. And this woman said, "Well, your daughter was collecting newspapers from people's front lawns, and she had her arms full of newspapers, and she was in the middle of the road." So after she left, I cried, and I thought, oh dear, Mark would have killed me if something had happened to Bonnie Sue. And my life would never have been the same. And she is a go-getter. She does gather things, but I was so grateful for God's loving care when I was in control of her. Because you ladies, you're at the age, your kids are at the age where you are in some semblance of control, but it only gets worse. And here at such an early stage, I realized I didn't have control because those people who had visited, this going back to the story, that the kids had gone through and they had left the gate unlocked. And so I thought, wow, I'm going to always have to check the gate when Bonnie goes out to play. And as the kids get older, you can't check the gates, and you don't know when they're getting home, when they're in a sorority, or what if they're living downtown San Francisco, or they go off to Turkey to see a boyfriend. Things like that. I don't want you to stay awake at night now, but worrying about those days that are coming. But the more you realize now at this stage that God loves your kids even more than you love them, and that he's looking out for you as much as he's looking out for them, that will help give you peace. You'll still worry because it's kind of a mother's job to do that, and Jesus understands that, and his mother worried about him. Another thing I wanted to mention is that you have worth just because God loves you. And I think when you are a mom and someone goes, well, what do you do? And you say, well, I'm just a mom. You have to get that word just out of your vocabulary. I was actually at that fabulous store, whatever it's called, not Abercrombie. Oh, Anthropologie. I was up in the Portland area last year, and I stopped at Anthropologie, and they had a big sale, and I bought a lot of things, which we'll talk about in another talk. But this gal who was helping me, I said, so she found out I was from California, and she goes, oh, I went to Berkeley. I go, wow, you must be really smart, because it's really hard to get into Berkeley. And she goes, and I go, so what are you doing? She goes, well, I'm just doing this. And I have 2 kids. I said, take that word just out of your vocabulary. I said, being a mother is the hardest job in the world. I used to think it was teaching 9th grade remedial readers because I was an English teacher. I thought that was the hardest job in the world, but no, then I became a mother. And it is the hardest job in the world. And it used to irritate me. I used to work part-time, and my husband would come home from work and he would say, so did you work today? Well, he didn't say it that way. He's nicer than that. But he said, did you work today? And I said, I work every day. I just don't get paid every day, which reminds me, I would like to ask for a raise. Because you start feeling like, wow, I'm just a mom, or I'm just doing this, and I'm not working outside the home, so I don't have as much value. Now, maybe you don't struggle with that, but there's certain days, even today, where Mark will say, what'd you do today? I'm thinking, what did I do today? And I have to, I did a load of laundry, and I made you dinner. And he goes, wait, I'm not mad. He's just curious. So he's being sweet about it, but I'm the one struggling with the issue. And so I think that in terms of our worth, we think in terms of productivity. And right now during the virus, when we have all these kids running around who used to be at school perhaps, and you're not used to homeschooling, or life has seemed to stop. Life has seemed to stop a little bit for me because my kids are home. I think it's Christmas vacation. And during Christmas vacation, I relax some of my projects, my writing and speaking projects, because I'm taking care of my adult children. And believe me, I take them breakfast in bed, and I fix them lunch, and then all of a sudden it's dinner again, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And then I realized after 2 weeks of the sheltering at home that I really had a life apart from my adult children, and I needed to get back to it. So it is kind of a weird time right now. But even when it's not shelter at home, you are sheltering at home your children. And you might think at times, well, I'm not really producing much, and I'm certainly not bringing in much of an income. And you might even think, well, I didn't make any money today, or I didn't clean the garage like I thought I would, and I didn't get through anything on my to-do list. I've started a goal a week ago Monday of writing 1,000 words a day and starting a new book. And I did it for 4 days, and then I didn't do it the 5th day, and now I haven't done it for the last 6 days. And I took naps, and I haven't felt well. And then my kids are going, what's wrong with you, Mom? I go, I'm just fine. I'm fine. Don't worry, I don't have the virus. But I read this, I'm reading Jesus Calling right now by Sarah Young. Maybe you have that. And this morning, today's April 10th, she wrote, nothing is wasted when we spend time close to Jesus. Nothing is wasted when we spend time close to me. It's Jesus calling. And I thought, okay, even if I didn't get to my total to-do list, even if I didn't write my 1,000 words, even if I never write a 4th book, my life is not wasted when I'm spending my day close to Jesus. I love what John Ortberg said. He wrote, God relentlessly pursues us because all he's ever wanted was to be with us. He relentlessly pursues you because all he's ever wanted was to be with you. And if God is out there doing all that pursuing, shouldn't I be responding? So that makes your day worthwhile when you respond to God. And I don't do it perfectly, and I don't do it well every day. But when I don't, and when I'm out of sorts, or when I've snapped at my husband, or I've been impatient with my daughters, that I can say, Lord, please forgive me. I want to relate well with you because you have pursued me. You've pursued me all the way to the cross and back as we're celebrating Good Friday tonight and the resurrection on Sunday. God pursued you that much out of love. And that's what gives you and I our worth, not if we write a book or we bring in a lot of money or we have a great title. I didn't think I cared about titles until I switched jobs once. I was in my late 20s, maybe early 30s, and I got this job as an assistant to a director of some organization. And I wanted the nameplate on my desk to say assistant director, but I was told it was to be assistant to the director. And in my mind, that meant something totally different, which it was. And they were accurate. And I thought, wow, why does that bother me? That shows me I have pride, number one. I don't need pride. And it shows me that my value, my personal value, I see as being in a title, not the fact that Jesus went to the cross for me. So if you have your kids hanging all over you right now going, Mommy, 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 I remember that. Just say, wow, they're pursuing me out of love, and God loves me so much that he gave me these children. And it's a really hard job, and he will give you the strength. My mentor is Lori Potratz, and she'll remind me very often that there's only two things that are worth building into, and that's the Word, because it lasts forever, and people, because they last forever. And so you might think, well, how can I build into the Word? I don't have time to read my Bible. Are you kidding? But it's helped me years ago. My sister-in-law told me to put all my reading, like my devotionals and a Bible and a notebook, in a basket with a handle. This is when my kids were small. And the idea of the handled basket is so if the kids interrupt you and they're still safe and they're playing nicely, that you can pick up your basket of Bible materials and go to another room, even if you have to close the door. And so if you can spend some time with God every day, or a few minutes, or even at the kitchen sink, and our worship songs, or listening to a podcast, that will help you relate well with God. And so you're building into things that matter. And then the other one is building into people. And as a mother, that's the most important building you can do, because that's a legacy that will go beyond you. You know, they will live beyond your life. And so that is legacy building. A verse I came across this week in my little quiet time basket was 2 Corinthians 4:18. The things that are seen won't last forever. The things that aren't seen will. And even though you see your children, your relationship with them, your love for them, that is what you're building into, and that will last forever. And that's a treasure that will not be destroyed. My sister-in-law told me this once, and it's still so pertinent for me. She said that when your kids are little, you talk to them about God, and that's building into their lives, and that's having a life that matters. But when they're older, you talk to God about them. Now, I think that both can be true. That of course, when your kids are little, you're praying for them. But you're able to say such wonderful things about who Jesus is, and then show them who Jesus is through the way you treat them. And then when they get older, they don't necessarily want to hear it from their mother. So I have prayed for godly people to come into my girls' lives who can talk to them and sidle up next to them in their disappointments and in their struggles at work and at school and with boyfriends, who will comfort them. And then when they come to me, as they are doing more as they get older, that I will only give advice when they ask me, which is hard because I have the gift of giving advice. But if I give it to my children, they back off. So that's when when I see something that I get worried about them. Oh dear, I'm not sure they're doing the right thing. That I speak to God about them, rather than going to them and saying, I'm not sure you're doing the right thing, because that doesn't work. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, get yourself a basket. So that means you can shop online, a handle basket. Remember every day that your life matters because Jesus went to the cross for you, and that he will help you love those children who seem to be around you a whole lot more than usual. And if you want to email me, if you have any questions, if I didn't make any sense, that's totally okay. You can email me at sue@welcomeheart.com, and I'd be happy to chat further with you. Thanks so much, Ashley, for inviting me, and I do love MOPS and hope I can come in person in the years to come, because it is one of my favorite things to do. God bless you, and remember how much God loves you and loves those children of yours.